Thanks to UP Travel for supporting this video. This is Michigan's biggest waterfall. Since this video started, about 40,000 gallons of water have fallen off this cliff. This is the kind of place that feels like it'll be here forever, but the truth is, this entire waterfall is moving. It's story time. If you look at an elevation map of Michigan, you can divide the state basically into three parts. There's the western Upper Peninsula, which is made of ancient craggy rock that forms all kinds of little mountains. There's the northern mitten, which has nice hills sculpted by glaciers. And then there's the rest of it, which is more or less flat. You might expect Michigan's biggest waterfall to be in one of these sections, and that is where you'll find the state's tallest waterfall. But that's not where I am. I'm at the Upper Tahquamenon Falls, which is Michigan's largest waterfall by volume and is located here in the flat cedar swamps of the eastern Upper Peninsula. If you're into stats, it's more than 200 feet wide, about 50 feet tall, and on average 6,000 to 7,000 gallons of water drop over the edge every second. In the spring, that number can get up to 50,000 gallons per second, enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 13 seconds. By volume, it's actually one of the biggest waterfalls in the eastern United States. But this area is called Tahquamenon Falls, plural. And that's because while this is the waterfall you'll see all over the tourism websites, it's not the only thing here. In fact, it's not even my favorite waterfall. Let's take a walk. This is Tahquamenon Falls State Park, which is 75 square miles, or the size of 2 townships in the Lower Peninsula. Basically, it's a lot of land. And in that land, there are more than 35 miles of trails. We're gonna be going about 4 miles today on the river trail, but the good news is it's gonna be a lot harder for me than it is for you. Also, pro tip, if you hate that feeling of flies buzzing near your ears, but still want to go hiking in the Upper Peninsula in the summer, I do recommend a good head net. Looks goofy, but you can't beat the peace of mind.
Now, to be clear, you don't always need a head net at Tahquamenon Falls. I just went at a particularly buggy time.
The river trail, like the name implies, follows the Tahquamenon River, which is pretty peaceful, honestly. But more notably, the water is dark, like the color of black tea. Actually, one of the nicknames for the upper falls is Root Beer Falls, both because of the color and because of the foam from the churning water, which is naturally occurring, by the way. It's not a PFAS situation. But as for the color, that's because the Tahquamenon River flows through a cedar swamp. As the water passes by all kinds of cedar and hemlock and spruce trees and decaying vegetation, it picks up these brown compounds called tannins, which tint the water brown. Tannins are a big class of compounds found in a bunch of plants, and they help those plants do things like fight off bacteria and predators. But tannins are also in all kinds of things that we drink, including coffee, tea, red wine, and beer. I did read online that tannins may also have a connection to Vernors, which is perhaps Michigan's favorite pop. I said perhaps, don't come after me, Faygo fans. But unfortunately, I'm not sure it's true. Vernors is a Michigan pop that tastes kind of like a strong ginger ale. And for years, the company said that a key part of the brewing process was letting the mixture sit in a wooden barrel for 4 years to develop its flavor. The claim is that in those 4 years, the pop absorbed tannins from the wood, which gave it its golden color. Unfortunately, from what I can tell, it's more likely that the color came from the caramelization of the sugars or some other addition. The concentration of tannins absorbed from the barrel might have been high enough to affect taste, but not high enough to strongly color the mixture. I was actually planning to bring a bottle of Vernors with me so that I could sit and enjoy it in this beautiful area, but 1, I forgot the Vernors, and 2, the bugs are too bad for me to want to take this off anyway. So we press on. Honestly though, this hike is really lovely, and it's not terribly difficult if you're used to hiking. There are a good number of ups and downs, but overall, like I mentioned, this part of Michigan is mostly flat. And that is because all of this used to be at the bottom of the sea. Apart from the western and central Upper Peninsula, where the rock at the surface can be 1 to 2 billion years old, Michigan is mostly built on a foundation of old seabeds. For millions of years, this part of the world was down by and even south of the equator, and was often underwater. On and off, warm, shallow seas covered the land, coming and going and coming back again over many, many millennia. The rock I'm walking on right now dates back to roughly 500 to 540 million years ago, during a time called the Cambrian period. During the Cambrian, the first fish appear in the fossil record, along with all kinds of invertebrates, animals without backbones. In what's now Michigan, there may have been creatures like trilobites, creepy, crawly arthropods, spiny, slug-looking things, and my personal favorite, Opabinia, because look at this guy. So if I could go back to this exact patch of land back then, I'd likely be underwater, confronted with a bunch of neighbors straight out of a sci-fi movie. But this was Earth in the distant past, which just blows my mind. The story of our planet is so much longer than the story of humans. Over time, these ancient seafloors got buried by various layers of rock and sediment, and the Cambrian seafloor eventually got squished under all that weight. Slowly, this cemented the seafloor into rock, and that's what I'm walking along here on the Tahquamenon River. Specifically, there are a couple of types of this old seabed rock. Right now, I'm on the Chapel Rock member, which is around 500 million years old. But back above the upper falls, the rock is a little younger. It's part of the Miners Castle member, which is around 495 million years old. But I'm not just saying this because I like putting names to things. The whole reason the upper and lower falls exist the way they do is because of those two rock types. See, the Miners Castle member is a bit more resilient than the Chapel Rock. So water wears away at the underlying Chapel Rock layer until you're left with a big hanging ledge of the Miners Castle. That ledge eventually collapses and you've got yourself a waterfall. This also means that the upper falls is very slowly moving. Over time, undercutting will keep happening, so the upper falls will keep moving farther and farther upstream. It'll take generations, but someday the only thing to see at this nice new boardwalk will be the river. But the Chapel Rock member is different. You can think of it like a croissant. It's made of many thin layers stacked on top of each other. They're called bedding planes. And when this rock erodes, it tends to break one layer at a time rather than all at once. So rather than giving you one big drop, you instead get this. Welcome to the lower falls. Is it safe to take this off? Am I out of the woods enough? Unclear. The lower falls is a series of much smaller drops, which honestly I find really charming. The bigness of the upper falls is cool, but I like all the details here. As the rock broke all along these bedding planes, it created a bunch of tiny little cliffs and crevices. It feels like there are a dozen individual scenes in this one view. There's a lot to look at. In moments like this, I'm tempted to feel like this is one of those magical places that exists outside the influence of humans, that it's pure nature, but that doesn't exist. Just like there are layers to the geology here, there are layers to the human story too. Like the name Tahquamenon is derived from the Ojibwa language. And although its meaning is debated, there's no debating that native people have fished, hunted, foraged, and enjoyed a relationship with these lands for many a generation. an old and ongoing chapter. In this story, there are also a few pages from the 1800s, when the river was used as a highway for loggers, taking trees from the forests to the mills. And in its most recent chapter, Tahquamenon Falls is now part of a state park, a place for hiking, fishing, birding, or just taking a good rest. I'm only here for a few days, and I'm reminded that my experience of this place is a fraction of a sentence in the grand scheme of things. This land formed underwater. It was buried for millions of years until all the rock above it was scraped away by mile-high glaciers. It's known countless human stories and industries, and now it's a public place welcoming as many people as possible. I will never be able to experience all a place has to offer, but I am grateful for the moments I got to experience today, both the beautiful and the buggy ones. So thanks for coming with me. And thanks to UP Travel for sponsoring this video. If you want to learn more about Tahquamenon Falls State Park, you can head to uptravel.com and follow them on social media. I hope you learned something that makes you think about the world just a little differently, and I'll see you soon. Okay, but first, I'm gonna go shower. A long hike, good weather, and a plate of fresh broiled Lake Superior whitefish. I call that a good day.